doing? It's me, Leslie. And Zazoo. Here, let's see, it's about almost 7 a.m. on Monday, October 20th, 2025, 29th Sunday. Yes. I'm using my old microphone. I asked for one. I asked myself for one for my birthday, and I don't know if I got it yet. I'm gonna have to wait till my birthday because that's when I'm gonna open my presents. So maybe I'll have a new microphone to use after November 2nd, which is my birthday, 60th birthday. So I had a wish list, and I asked the universe for a few things for myself, So I'll let you know if the universe, came through with it. I have all faith in the world that it will, because I've been asking for some things for a while now, and as you'll find with today's readings, that works. If you keep asking the universe for things, after a while it'll get really tired of you bugging it and provide what you're asking for. So that's the theme for today. Anyway, getting ready for work. Okay, whatever. It's pouring rain, but it was a beautiful weekend. We had a beautiful Saturday here in Connecticut. A lot of people turned out in costume in Hartford for a big party. Yeah, I know some people who went to that big party. Lots of people. Anyway, up at the Capitol. Anywho, so I talked about that. Okay, that's really annoying, isn't it? Yeah, it's really annoying. I'll try not to do that. I'll just keep it like this. I talked about that. Oh, yeah. So my dad's fine. He, this week, I don't know if you've been following the Zazoo report. My dad had a little, some adventures. Let's just say he was fine the whole time. But, he's even better now, because this week he went to, as usual, he went to his fiddle night, with his fiddle buddies, and then the next night he went to his band practice, and he's busier than I am. He's 88. You can't pin him down. I text him, and he's so independent. I text him, and he won't get back to me for 2 days. I'm like, Dad, for this to work, you gotta text me back. So I'll send him like a little picture or some fun thing, and then he'll go, oh yeah, all of a sudden I'll get a text like, oh yeah, I've been busy, I've been out raking the leaves, I've been doing that. And I'm like, I know this. I know intuitively I feel like he's okay, but my brain tells me that I should keep tabs on him. But intuitively, I know that he can't stand that, and he doesn't need it, But, so, this is something that I'm dealing with. Anyway, let's see. Oh, and then I realized, it's walking on my head. 6 years ago, I went on my little adventure. I went on a weekend retreat up in the Berkshires, up near that yoga center, Kripalu. I had this lady I met. I was in a creative group. She's dumping around going to work. I met this lady. It'll show up in a future book. But she has this retreat. She turned her house into a retreat place where she'd have a bunch of ladies come up for a day, and you go up there and you get together with people, and you get to drink hippie tea and do yoga, and hike in the woods. So we did all that stuff. So I'll put that in a future book. But I was just thinking, so I did a little collage, montage, tribute video thing on my Facebook page. There, the lady who ran it, she's a great person. She actually posted a review for my book when it came out. This was before I launched my book, just before. And she said something. She did this little. We were having our nice lunch outside, which she cooked. She learned how to cook at the Kripalu Center, all healthy and vegan stuff. Lots of lentils. So we're sitting there after lunch, and she drew like an animal oracle card for everybody, and I got the beaver. And she said something about it, me needing to like build a foundation. And she said, that my foundation. I took a picture of what the little book said about it, and it said something about needing to build a stable foundation to build from, and I always remembered that. So the rest of the weekend, they had this Autobahn, like, nature sanctuary place. So, that afternoon, the next day, the Sunday, I stayed at a hotel, and they had I used the pool, and they had a nice little Sunday breakfast, so I fueled up, and then I took like an apple with me, and I had that after my hike, But I was looking for beavers, and I guess they were shy. You could see the beaver dams where they built them, but all the beavers were hiding. So I just sat there on a bench, and I had some colored pencils and a little sketchbook, and I tried to draw the fall foliage, when I was having a little trail mix bar or something. I always wish that I could be that kind of an artist. I'm more of a digital artist, but, because like when I try to draw things, I don't know how to do proportion, so I just draw everything flat. So the beaver's like, standing on these sticks, and the tree is over here, and the sun is in the sky, I draw like I'm 5, but, there's a certain charm to that. Anyway, I have some artistic abilities. Proportion is not one of them. Okay, yeah, so I did that. Okay, so, yeah. So today's readings, if you're new here, I do this. I do a little, the astrology. Before we get into the Bible readings for the week, I'll just do a quick pass over the astrology. I'm not going to do everything, but there's stuff going down this week. There's a new moon on Tuesday, the 21st, in Libra. So I got everybody write your intentions, your new moon checks. I'm going to do that. So that's all about balance and harmony and stuff like that. And then the sun is going into Scorpio. Yay, Scorpio! The next day, 22nd. And then, so now though, Mercury and Mars are conjunct at 19 degrees of Scorpio, which happens to be my Neptune. So I got Mercury and Mars sitting on my Neptune. So I guess that means that it's good to talk about and act on my dreams, or that I can be kind of caught up in and I gotta say, Neptune has to do with dreams, right? And like the spiritual realm, sort of, boundless. I had some dreams last night. I just was motivated to put my tablet in the other room, because I have this bad habit of, looking at videos on my tablet, like, tarot readings and stuff. So I said, I'm done with this. Put the tablet in the other room. And I had this epic dream that just kept going, and then I'd wake up and I'd fall back to sleep, and it kept going and going and going. So that must be because of Neptune, because of Mercury and Mars sitting on my Neptune. Maybe. Shut up. Oh, my neighbor's back. She was gone for a week. It was nice and quiet. Now she's back. She's going to work. She can take her dog out. Anyway, Exodus. Okay, so, the rest of the astrology. I'm distracted. Also on the 22nd, Neptune goes back into Pisces. So there's a grand water trine, Jupiter Cancer. Planet Scorpio. Mercury's going into Sag to conjunct my Sag. What the heck is that kind of weird bird? So anyway, the grand water trine, Pisces, Cancer. Now we got a loud damn bird. Okay. So that's like reviewing our visions. Neptune retrograde in Pisces, going backwards. And then on the 24th, the sun's going to square Pluto in Aquarius. So that's power dynamics, emotions, something like that. Yeah, sun is, emotional, Scorpio, squaring Pluto. Pluto's power dynamics and stuff like that. So that should be interesting. Book of Exodus, Old Testament. They talk about Amalek. Amalek came to wage war on the Israelites, and I looked it up. And Amalek is it was a nomad tribe, but they're basically enemies of Israel. So Moses told Joshua, pick out men and meet Amalek in the battle. Amalek. Anyway, while he stood on the top of a hill with a staff in his hand. So he did that. So as long as Aaron and Hur supported Moses' hands, the Israelites would win. The minute he got tired and they dropped, then the enemy would start winning. So they sat him down on a rock and they propped up his hands, so that in the end they said Joshua he mowed over the Amalek and their people with the edge of his sword. That's sword. That's like Mercury. It's like in the tarot. It's the swords are like the air signs, or Mercury. It has to do with the edge of the sword is like cutting. Like words can cut. Airy. And it's also kind of Mars because Mars is war, and Mercury is sword. So it's amazing how the astrology ties into these readings. Nobody talks about this, just me. So the psalm is, our help is from the Lord who made heaven and earth. So that's I lift up my eyes toward the mountains, who will help me. So God says, I will not suffer your foot to slip. And God never sleeps, right? God, whoever's, He's our guardian, our shade. And not allow the sun or the moon to harm us. Sun and the moon are going to be in Scorpio. Well, the moon's going into Libra. But, Scorpio is all about going into dark places, venturing, going deep. And Scorpio is a pretty, fierce sign. I'm Scorpio. Pretty intense, It was co-ruled by Mars and Pluto, but now it's just Pluto, so it's okay, go. Anyway, so, it says God keeping us from evil, guarding our coming and going. So, that's kind of appropriate for these times. Goodbye. Have a good day at work. Goodbye. She's going to work. Yay. Oh, no, she's back again. I don't know. Okay, so second leather. I was watching a Kiss video. Second leather. second letter to Timothy, Paul to Timothy. It's reminding the faithful to, to remember what they've learned. I'm going to just put the mic here so you can hear me. And, no, you know what? I'm not. In Scripture, right? The benefits of Scripture, which was inspired by God, right from God's mouth. So he said, this is sacred, right? Not the way that people, have interpreted it over the years, but what was originally, channeled from God and written for the purposes of training, in righteousness, the right ways, equipping the army of God to, go forth and do their highest work, right? So, so I'm saying this is like Mars, Mercury, and Scorpio. It's a fixed, that Scorpio is the fixed, intense, persistent, action, or not afraid to bring up dark topics. Scorpios want depth in conversation. They don't like to skim the surface and talk niceties. I don't like that. I get really bored with small talk. I'm forced to exist at that level sometimes, but I don't prefer. I'd rather talk about, okay, what's really going on, rather than, oh, isn't everything, isn't it a nice day? Yeah. You know what, sidetrack here. You know what I can't stand? My biggest pet peeve is people who don't, people you meet on the street, or people that you kind of know, right? They go, how you doing? You really want to know? Because I can tell you. Why don't you just say, whenever they say that to me, I'll go, hello, or hi. I won't say, how you doing? To me, that is cringy. That is the definition of cringe. When I lived up at the house, we had this neighbor. He always he and his wife, they were Gen Xers, but they would always greet me and say, how you doing? And, I wanted to tell them sometimes, you really want to know how I'm doing? Let me tell you. I assure you, they didn't really want to know how I was doing, but I was very tempted to tell them. Anyway, sometime, you know what? I'm going to start, when people start asking me that, I'm going to start telling them. Okay. Okay, Zazoo, that's enough. All right. So, it says, be consistent. This is great. Be consistent whether it is convenient or inconvenient. Be patient, reprimand, and encourage, but don't give up, right? I love that. Whether it is convenient or not, right? Be persistent. In other words, there's some days you get up and you don't feel like working out. You just want to stay in bed. It's raining, it's Monday. You're like, it's so easy to just fall back into complacency and just, good enough and, just let somebody else do that. But there's something that only your soul was put here to do, right? That's what the song of the week really alludes to. That thing that only you can do, right? Ace Frehley from Kiss, the guitarist from Kiss until 1982, he passed away this week, which was sudden and there's a lot of tributes popping up to him. So that's why I'll go into that. I wanted to do a Kiss song, but it led me in a different direction, which wasn't bad. I did do Rock and Roll All Night. I posted that song in one of my Facebook reels, so I did pay tribute to him this week. He was the spaceman with the two flashes around his eyes and the silver boots and the, silver, like, spacesuit thing. Yeah. So we're back to Luke 18. So Jesus was telling this parable. Pray always without becoming weary. That loud bird. That's an annoying bird, isn't it? Anyway. Yeah. So he talks about this judge who neither feared God nor respected any human being. And there was this widow who was constantly begging him to rule, to come up with a just decision versus her enemy, right? She wants something. There's something that she needs, him to rule in her favor, right? Against someone who's, done her wrong. So, he wouldn't until he got so tired of her bugging. He was afraid she was going to come and hit him with her big pocketbook. So he said, okay, and he finally did it. He ruled in her favor, right? So that's kind of like the universe. The universe is neutral, right? It doesn't play favorites. You keep, but if you are persistent, right, you're eventually going to get what you want, what is, what your karma, what you've earned through your good works, through, resolving your karma. You keep pitching to the universe. You're going to eventually get a hit, right? Or you're going to eventually get, hit a home run or whatever. You keep, throwing it out there, and eventually you'll get what you want. So, the chosen, they said, the faithful, they know that God is going to answer their prayers, right? They don't have, they believe that their prayers will be answered because they believe that God listens to them, right? So they're gonna, if this judge who doesn't care, and delivers it's, in other words, how much more will God, who, certain people have a pipeline to God, right? For whatever reason, they get their prayers answered like that, right? But this widow, she wears them down, right? So that's why you have to keep praying, because sometimes, even though, you have faith and you believe in a just God, sometimes things don't come right away, right? Because God's timing is not our timing. So there are many reasons why we have to be persistent, is so, and it's almost like for ourselves, that we don't give up, because we have these dreams, right? And you can't give up on yourself, because God doesn't give up on us, right? We're the ones who give up. That's why Jesus was saying, will there be faith on earth, when he comes, right? Will God find faith on earth? Because, God doesn't give up faith in us. It's we who give up, believing in ourselves and in what, that we can achieve, what we, that we can be rock stars, basically. Do what we came here to do, So, feeding into the song, this is what I want to say. This is a perfect song. God gave rock and roll to you, by Kiss, okay? So, this original song, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, was originally a single in 1973, released by a British band, written by a Russ Ballard, for his British band Argent. I didn't remember it back then. Covered by a band called Petra in 1977 and 1985. And then the original 73 one got up to 114 on the Billboard. Not that great. And then Kiss comes along and they covered it for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, for that movie album soundtrack, and for their Revenge 1992 album. So, and this was during their no makeup phase. So the video I'm going to post is, and where's Ace Frehley? Like, I'm looking, and I could see Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons share the vocals, which is good. And they show, and the drummer is the other thing. But Kiss modified, the title's different because Kiss modified the lyrics so much that they had to change the title. So it's really a different song, and it rocks. It really is great. It's perfect. I hadn't seen the movie. I think I saw the original one, but this is, it's perfect for Halloween because there's lots of costumes and scary people, and they go to hell, and but it's Bill and Ted. Excellent. Yeah. So I'm gonna see if I can put there is a little movie clip that's out there with the music. The last scene of the movie. So they've got this guy named. They've got a guy. What's his name? He does a 40-minute. Guitar solo at the end. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Steve Vai, his name is. So, So in 1996, they returned the makeup, but they were still, this is one of the few songs they still played from their no makeup era, which is interesting. So I'm going to post the, one or both of those videos. And this was the last Kiss song with, so their drummer was Eric Carr for many years. And so he got sick, and he ended up dying 3 months after this song came out. But he, because he was doing chemo, but he sang on the song, he sang the chorus, to everyone he gave a song. So that was interesting. And he was in the video, and he wore a wig. So yeah, I didn't recognize him, and I didn't recognize the guitarist, who was Bruce Kulick. I guess he played lead guitar and backing vocals, after Ace left. So he took Ace's place, but doesn't look like him. So that one got to number 21 on the Billboard album Rock Tracks, that song. Yeah. And I think it said they dedicated either the song or, the album to Eric Carr, because of what they, because he was the heart, he was the soul of that, that recording. He was there, and then he was gone. So he was kind of, he was very much on their minds during that time. So, and he was, he made it on there, and he made it into the video. So that was really kind of moving. So I chose this because, in the readings it said God is our help. He gave us the song, the lyrics in the song. God gave us rock and roll, right? Which plays into God is our help, right? He gave us music. In other words, he gave us something to be, that speaks to us, something that stirs our soul, like rock and roll, right? That's Mars. Mars, Mercury, because Mercury is like the lyrics, communicating, right? And Mars is, action. It's that male energy. It's definitely rock and roll is Mars. um, and in, you know, the lyrics, you can take a stand or compromise, right? So, you know, in the readings, obviously, Moses, you know, Joshua, they take a stand, don't they? They don't let the enemy just come and plow them over. They take a stand. They speak up, right? So, you can work real hard or just fantasize. Now that's Neptune. I mean, fantasizing is Neptune. It's just dissolving into this Neptunian, you know, whatever, you know, kind of drifting off. Oh, I have these dreams, but no, you work hard. That's Mars. Scorpio is intensity, fixed passion, right? Yeah, you don't mess with Scorpio, you know? So, Scorpio's badass. And also there's water in the video, which is Scorpio. It's a water sign, but there's also this water trine going on. So I thought, that's perfect, because they're all stomping around in the water. You know, and then Halloween, all right? There's souls for All Souls Day, which is my birthday. There's leather, silver, skulls, black leather, you know. References to hell and death and all that stuff. It's perfect. It's the kind of stuff that Scorpios eat for breakfast, you know. So anyway, pumpkins. So yeah, that was fun. So yeah, I'm gonna go off and have my my little paleo hot chocolate and my rice cake as I usually do. And because I'm hungry, you know, I've got leftovers. What did I get? Oh, I got salmon for the week. I got frozen salmon. I'm gonna make my little roasted potatoes and roasted Brussels sprouts. Toss them in some olive oil, salt and pepper, and roast them in the oven. So good. And make like walnut crusted balsamic salmon or something like that. Oh, I put mustard on there, and then I cook it with some walnuts. Eating well this week. I made chicken pot pie. That was nice and comforting. What else was I going to make? Oh, minestrone soup. Yeah, I'm eating well this week. So anyway, yeah, go set your intentions. I think it's going to be a pretty powerful time leading up. So anyway, get ready for my birthday, Halloween. Enjoy the week, everybody. And I'll be here next week, same place, different time. Take care.